Hey, it's Whitney from EcoVeganGal.com, and welcome back to another live Q&A, which happen every Saturday right here on YouTube Live, and they will also be recorded for SoundCloud so that you can listen to them audio podcast style. Thank you so much for joining today, and as usual, I'm going to have a few quick notes for anybody who's brand new so you understand how these work. So this is completely live right now, unless you're watching the recording, so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If you would like to ask questions, I'll be answering them at the end of this. Usually I have about 5 to 6 questions that I answer that are kind of prepared based on feedback or questions submitted from the past. And if you want to ask live questions, you can get them in at google.com/+EcoVeganGal. You can find links to this on the EcoVeganGal Facebook page and YouTube page. So just click right on there and join. I'm not able to see questions asked live on YouTube, so please ask them at Google Plus for me to be able to see them. If for some reason I don't get to your question, it'll go into the queue for a future Q&A. And one of the best ways to get your questions answered in the future is to use the bit.ly link. It is, what is it? bit.ly, bit.ly/EVGWeeklyQA, and that link will be in the YouTube and SoundCloud description fields for you to easily click on. Speaking of the description fields, if you are watching the recording, you can actually click through on the timestamps. Just scroll down through the description until you see the timestamps for the specific questions and topics of these videos and audio recordings. And you can just jump forward to whatever part that you'd like if you don't want to watch or don't have time for the entire thing. Going back to asking questions, if you're watching the recorded version of this or you want to ask a question for the future, whether you're watching live or the recording, I would love to hear from you from SpeakPipe. And that reminds me, sometimes I forget to listen to the SpeakPipe messages, but I will not forget this time. I'm so sorry. Every week's a little bit different, but I do listen to them eventually. So SpeakPipe allows you to send a voicemail message so that I can hear your question via your voice. And I'm so excited because I think they're starting to catch on thanks to these Q&As, and I think I received 2 or 3 in the past week and completely slipped my mind to listen to them and incorporate them today, and I apologize to anyone who submitted them, but I will get to them. My goal is to get to every question, so I promise that it will be answered at some point, so stay tuned for that, and I can't wait to listen to them. They're so nice. And if you want to submit a voicemail question, just let me know if you are comfortable with me playing it live. I've thought about maybe I could just listen to the question. If we have time, maybe I'll play them live and listen. But I like to listen ahead of time because voice is a little bit more private, or not, well, private's not quite the right word. It's intimate. That's the word I want to use. So I like to listen first to make sure that the person asking it is okay with it going up there. All right, and lastly, I really encourage you to chime in with your opinions on things. So using the Google Plus Q&A feature, I can read all of your comments, and I'll be looking at those towards the end of this, as I mentioned. And not only can you ask questions, but you can chime in. So if I say something, if I answer something and you have more information or a different source of information you'd love to add, I love, love, love hearing from you. And I also encourage you to go to YouTube either during the recording or after the recording and help answer other people's questions. You are knowledgeable as well. All I ask is that you're respectful. Sometimes YouTube can get a little bit bully situation happening there, and I really don't like that. That means you'll either be banned from the channel or your comment will be removed if you start to bully people. So please don't do that. Please be respectful. Even if someone has a different opinion than you, I think we're all on a journey to learn. So being supportive, focusing on the positive of a situation instead of the negative is my mantra. In fact, progress, not perfection, is my main mantra and something I'm always trying to perpetuate. So be careful with your words. I also encourage avoiding words like should, and just because that can sometimes feel like you're pushing your thoughts onto someone, but instead say, hey, here's some information that I have, here's a website, check it out, and also respond in a way that shows that you're listening and that you care. Those are my best pieces of advice for all across the board on YouTube, but especially when it comes to answering somebody else's question, especially if I don't have a chance to get to it first. But I love hearing from you, and most of you are very, very positive, and thank you so much for your positivity and your support for me and everyone part of the Eco Vegan Gal community. let's jump right into a few more fun announcements this week. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'm trying out a new feature called Showcase. I don't know how this works quite yet. Maybe it's just when it's live, but I would love anybody watching to let me know in the Google Plus Q&A section. Can you see the websites? Like, I guess I don't know if there's a special section, if it shows up somewhere. I may be able to see this in the recording, but I would love for you to look around your screen right now and see if you can see what I'm talking about. Apparently, I can showcase different websites, which is neat because in these Q&As, I like to mention all sorts of different resources. And right now, I'm showcasing the Eco Vegan Gal website. So let me know what it looks like. If you want, take a screenshot and email it to me, send it to me on one of the social media networks. I would love to see it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's good feedback as well, because I want to make sure that you can actually see what I'm talking about. And I have a feeling it's just going to show up on Google+, but let me know if I'm wrong. So the next thing I want to showcase is part of my announcement, and that's because the Epic Living Retreat that was recently held in Costa Rica about a month ago is now available online. So now I'm calling it the Epic Living Virtual Retreat, because you can participate virtually, meaning you can just watch all of the footage from the retreat. It's so nice. And that is for sale up on a website, which I will link to down below in the description fields. Or you can check it out in the showcase feature if that's working properly. And you can choose either the 5-day package or the 7-day package, which will allow you access to the videos. So you'll get to see my workshops, which talked all about how to green your lifestyle and keep toxins out of your lifestyle in terms of food, fitness, and what was the other one? Body care. So if you're curious about that, it's a great opportunity. Plus, you'll get raw recipe demos from Jason Robel and Fully Raw Christina, acro yoga, and I think vinyasa yoga from Koya Webb, who is phenomenal, and Pilates from Amber Zucksworth. So you get this full spectrum of healthy living through this virtual retreat. If you want to learn more, click on the YouTube description field, or if you can, check out that showcase feature that I mentioned. I also have a little special something for you today, and that is 20% off some of my favorite, all-time favorite kale chips. Alive and Radiant recently sent me over some to indulge in, and let me tell you, if you haven't tried these kale chips, I think that you're missing out. And the cool thing is that these are widely available. I've seen them all across the United States. You probably can get them in Canada and Europe. You may have to order online or go to a special natural store, but they're really easy to find, especially in the U.S. This is kind of the old school, quite cheesy flavor that is phenomenal. I did have a bag of my top favorite, which is cheesy chipotle, but I ate it immediately. And they also have chocolate kale chips, which sounds a little crazy, but let me tell you, this is such a great combination of savory and sweet. It's mainly sweet. The kale really acts as crunch factor. And it's neat because this would be a cool way to widen your opinion about kale. If you don't really like kale, maybe putting chocolate on it will help. And it's also great for kids. But these taste kind of like nachos or Doritos or something. One of my favorite snacks. The greatest thing is that they're all raw. They're gluten-free. I think that they're soy-free. Yes, they are. I don't know about every single flavor, but I'm guessing that most of them are. They're also, is this one? This one's nut-free. That's cool. So usually they use cashews, like in the cheesy flavors, but apparently the chocolate kale chips are nut-free because they use pumpkin seeds. That's so cool. I'm learning along with you. So these are just so wonderful, and they use a lot of organic ingredients. Almost entire. This one is actually all organic except for the salt, and then this one is mainly organic except for the red bell peppers, the nutritional yeast, and the salt. So really wonderful. I think these are just fantastic. They also have some new entirely organic kale chips that have superfoods in them. And this one has spirulina, maca, chia, cayenne, and turmeric. I am a huge fan of all of those ingredients, and this tastes really nice. It's a little on the salty side, but it's such a nice, unique spin. All of the flavors are kind of subtle and melded together, and you get your superfood. So a kind of inexpensive way to get some superfoods. These usually run about $5 a bag, maybe $6, depending on when you buy them. I find that they're often on sale. But the good news is today you can get 20% off. In fact, that 20% off will be valid until I think August 31st. You're going to use the coupon code Blogger2014, and that will be in the YouTube description field as well as the SoundCloud description fields. So check that out. Right now I'm showcasing, however that feature works, their website, which is shop.kayafoods.com. And again, that'll be linked in the description fields for you to check out. Go take advantage of it, load up on these, get them sent right to your door. You'll have to double check if that is an option if you're outside of the U.S., but it definitely works in the U.S. And if you're outside the U.S., I would check sites like Amazon or local shops. You can maybe request them and see if your local shops can carry them, or just, you know, so many online stores. I bet you places like Vegan Essentials might carry it, and some other great online vegan shops as well. Next up, I just want to give you a quick preview of something that's coming this coming week on Eco Vegan Gal. This is one of my favorite bags as of recently. This is by a company called Canopy Verde, and this is a completely eco-vegan bag. They use a leather alternative and organic cotton, and this purse is just everything. I love it. I love purple, so this goes like with every outfit that I wear, but it's such a great size. It fits my water bottle. I bring this to the gym. I put all sorts of things. When I go to the grocery store and forget a reusable bag, I put my groceries that are small in here. It can fit like my iPad. It fits just so much, and it's great when you're on the go and carrying a lot of things. Now, the exciting news is Canopy Verde is going to give away one of their clutches, which they all of the line kind of has this cool look with the cotton and the leather accents and all of that. So stay tuned. I'm going to be giving one of those away this coming week on Eco Vegan Gal, and the best way to know when that's going to happen is to sign up for the Eco Vegan Gal Digest, the newsletter, and that will have all the details for the giveaway. I'll also be doing a video just on that bag right there, so if you want to learn more about the company and why I love the bag so much. I wish I could give away the bag, but the clutch is really awesome as well, and if you've been checking out Canopy Verde because of my recommendations, this is a great opportunity to win one of their products. So stay tuned for that. I will also mention it again in next week's Q&A, which happens every Saturday. Okay, let's jump into the questions. And yes, let's get right started with that. As a reminder, if you want to ask your live questions, those will be that will be an option later on in this Q&A, in case you're just joining us. I want to reiterate this. Please ask your questions at google.com/+EcoVeganGal. If you're having trouble typing that in, you can look at past YouTube videos for the link. You can just go to my Google Plus page, which is linked on the Eco Vegan Gal website. You can find a link on Facebook and Twitter as well. But it's just google.com/+EcoVeganGal to ask your questions. And if you're watching the recording, don't forget to click in the description fields and you can write your question in for the future. So let's jump into the questions that people have asked in the past. This could be you, in other words. Okay, so Zoe from Scotland. I love it when people tell me where they're from. I get so excited to talk to people from around the world. Zoe asked, can you discuss your feelings/research in the agave nectar versus maple syrup versus stevia debate? There's so much information, it's difficult to filter it all. I completely agree, Zoe, and yes, this has become a little bit of a complex situation here, but you know, it doesn't have to be that complex. I guess it comes down to your personal comfort level, really, and also your body, because some of us are able to process fructose and glucose really easily, various sugars. Some of us don't get sugar highs or crashes. Some of us might be prone to diabetes or already have diabetes. So it really depends on what your overall health and body reaction is to these. But these certain sweeteners can also increase your likelihood to get things like diabetes, so it's important to pay some attention to it. I guess my overall opinion on a lot of things is that if we stress out too much about it, it's also not good for our health, so not being too concerned. Personally, I have been avoiding agave for several years now, and the short end of it is that I don't find it necessary. There's so many other alternatives. I prefer stevia at any possible opportunity, but it's not great in everything. It's not usually that thick. I don't even think that there is a thick liquid stevia. It's usually in powder form or drop form, just like very liquidy. But the advantage of agave is it's nice and thick and it's nice and sweet. But there are some great options. Maple syrup, as Zoe mentioned, is a nice alternative to that. And now we have something called bee-free honey, which is in my fridge. I could have brought that out to show you. That's made from apples. We have brown rice syrup, which is really nice and thick, and molasses can be used. There's so many thick sweeteners. But first, let me jump into why not agave. So let's talk about how agave is made. It is a sap that is extracted, filtered, and then heated at a low temperature, and then it turns into that sugary syrup. You can find it in a few varieties. There's light, amber, dark, and raw. Light agave has a flavor similar to honey, while the dark agave has a deeper flavor similar to maple syrup. And some say that the light agave is better because it's less processed, so you want it to be really clear, kind of looking like it came out of the cactus, which is where agave is from. Now, some say that agave has a low glycemic index, or a lower glycemic index. When it first hit the market, well, I shouldn't say first, but when it became kind of a big fad, and it still kind of is, not so much as it was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. It was a big deal, and they said it was low glycemic, making it less likely to raise your blood sugar or insulin levels. And I think that's still the case. I'm not a nutritionist, first of all, I should say, or a doctor. I don't do any science. This is all based on my personal research. Although I think it's still low glycemic, some people say that it's not too different from sugar. It was marketed as being really safe for diabetics, and then some research came out that found otherwise. So it's a little bit of a iffy thing. I think really what happened with agave is it was seen as like this fix-all product, like, oh, don't want to use sugar, use agave instead, maybe because it was less processed and slightly lower glycemic, but I guess people were overusing it and it was causing some health problems, and thus the agave hype dulled down a lot. It also has the same amount of calories as table sugar, so people were thinking that it was a healthier option to sugar because of the low glycemic thing, but they were confusing, thinking that it had less calories when really it's really not that different. It also has, it consists primarily of fructose and partially glucose, yet often the same percentages as high fructose corn syrup. So again, it's not as healthy as it was marketed. And it also is often quite processed, so it doesn't contain the original nutrients or enzymes if you're not getting it in its raw form. So the difference between high and low glycemic foods lies mostly in the amount of fiber that they contain. And fiber slows the digestion of sugars and keeps you very even. So that's an important thing to consider based on what sugar is going to work best for your body. Maple syrup is very high glycemic, but it's also very high in minerals, so it has some nutritional benefits there, making it a nice choice if you're not too sensitive to the high glycemic aspect there. And it tends to be less processed as well. I don't use a ton of maple syrup. I really use it in the traditional ways of if I have breakfast and I want to pour a little on. But it's rare that maple syrup's in my fridge. Sometimes I'll use it in baking, but again, very rare. It has to be a specific thing that needs that syrup flavor. I really prefer stevia as the sweetener, as I mentioned, and I'll often have a little packet of organic stevia in my purse, in my wallet, in the car, and I have the drops, and I use those for my teas. I usually just use stevia to sweeten beverages, so if I go out to get a tea somewhere, that's where I like to use it. And sometimes I'll use it in desserts. It can have a bitter aftertaste depending on the brand and how it's processed, but I've gotten used to it, and I really like it. One company that, let me double check that they're using stevia here. Yes, they are. So one company that is using it really well is So Delicious. They use it in a lot of their no sugar added products. They have this great line of ice cream. So if you're looking for an ice cream without added sugars, I love this. This mint chip is phenomenal. There have been summers that I've eaten this just non-stop, and it's so amazing. It's made from coconut, so it's also soy-free. And the cool thing about it is they balance out the stevia flavor with a few other things. They use erythritol, which is kind of similar. That, I think, comes from birch trees. And what else do they use? thought there was another one. Oh, monk fruit. So that's another common one that you'll see. So if you're looking for products, you can check the labels and see what they're using. Oftentimes they'll combine different sweeteners like that to dull down that bitter flavor of stevia. So that's an option as well. Some other things that you can look into is xylitol is the one from Birch. I don't remember what erythritol is, but they're similar. They're like sugar alcohols. There's also Lecanto, which is a nice option and alternative to stevia. And Lecanto, I don't remember much about because I rarely use it, but it's often great in baking. But there's also some really simple sweeteners that you can use, like dates. Dates are phenomenal. They're just naturally sweet. If you're okay with, I forget what the glycemic index rating of dates is, but the great thing is that that's just the way that they are. They're fruits, and they're very, very sweet, but you get all of the fiber benefits of it. You can eat them like a candy. You can use them in different recipes. They're very common in raw food recipes, and sometimes raw food is just eat dates as part of their eating, like the 80-10-10 way of eating is very high in eating dates, and there's all these different varieties of dates, so those are a phenomenal sweetener. I mentioned brown rice syrup, and I also love coconut palm nectar, and you can get that in that thick brown rice syrup, maple syrup, that whole category of thick sweeteners. You can also get brown rice, coconut palm granules, so they're a great alternative to brown sugar. And I often use those in baking or certain recipes, sometimes when I cook as well, and they're great in raw food recipes. I don't know if coconut palm is technically raw, but you'll see it in a lot of different products. In fact, do they use it? Yes. So they're actually used in the Kale Crunch here, along with that's their main sweetener actually. So it's also great. I think that it's considered a low glycemic option as well. You know, I think that it just comes down to doing some research, knowing your alternatives. I have so many alternatives, or there are so many alternatives to agave that there's just no reason for me to use it. So unless it's in a baked good when I'm buying something pre-made and I really want to try it, I just skip over it and use all the other things. So I hope that answers your question, Zoe, and makes it a little less confusing. Just do a little bit of research, see how you feel when you have certain sweeteners, and try out the alternatives. Moving on, Betsy K asked, I'm thinking about going gluten-free, and I was wondering if you could give me some tips on getting started. It is so simple, Betsy. It's unbelievable. I went gluten-free about 4.5 years ago because actually it was really out of curiosity, but I stayed gluten-free because my body responded so well. I didn't realize that I was sensitive to gluten until I gave it a try, and I noticed that a lot of my inflammation went down. I've talked about this in some videos, which I'll link below. There's one called the Eco-Vegan Gal Diet, and it was all about how it's impacted me. If you go on my YouTube channel and just type in the search bar gluten-free, you'll see recipes, you'll see me talking about it in a lot of ways. Same thing with the website. I will link to the tag for gluten-free, and you can scan through. That's really a lot of the information I've been putting out there about gluten-free. I do want to say that the gluten-free diet is definitely positioned in the media as kind of a fad, and somehow the food industry just took off and ran with it. They wanted to offer up a lot of options for people that were celiac or sensitive, but I think that the mainstream world out there just started to think that it was a healthy thing to do and maybe to lose weight. And I probably participated in spreading this as well because I lost weight when I went gluten-free, but that was because I was sensitive to it, and when I ate gluten, I had an inflammation response that made it look like my body was heavier. Like I really noticed it in my arms. My arms were like so much, well, significantly thicker and rounder in my face. You can see old videos and photos of me. My face was very different when I ate gluten. I was like puffy, you know? And that's because I was sensitive to it. But more and more research comes out to show that most people aren't sensitive to gluten, and avoiding it doesn't do that much. In fact, it just kind of limits your diet more. So you first need to figure out if you're sensitive. For me, it was trial and error. I haven't had a blood test done specifically around gluten, although I'm very curious to get that done in the future. If you can, go to your doctor and get some tests done and see if you have any sensitivities to gluten or to wheat or specific products there that may be confused. There's a new thing or a new thing in the media, I should say, called FODMAPs, FODMAPs, and a lot of people that thought that they were gluten intolerant are discovering they're actually sensitive to things in the FODMAPs category. So I encourage you to look that up as well. I think that when things are overly sensationalized or overly marketed to us, we get very confused, and it can be hard to determine what's best for us. But anybody can choose to be gluten-free if they want to. There's really, as far as I know, no danger of eating gluten-free if you're not intolerant or sensitive. It certainly can be a way to cut down on processed foods. For me, I stopped eating most breads because it's challenging to find gluten-free and vegan breads and baked goods out there, and sometimes when we eat too much of those processed carbs, that's where we gain weight, and there are a lot of hidden sugars in those type of foods. So it really helped me focus on whole foods because my options were a little bit more limited. However, your options don't need to be that limited. So if Betsy decides, or if any of you watching decide that you want to go gluten-free or you have to go gluten-free, let me assure you it is so easy. I am not only gluten-free but also soy-free, and there are a number of other specific foods in my diet, like corn I don't eat because I have sensitivities to that too, and that's a huge staple of the gluten-free lifestyle. So I am a perfect example of someone who is not able to eat specific foods that are very common, and yet I still have so much variety in my diet. One of my favorite resources, I'm going to highlight this in the showcase section if you want to click on the link, is the Complete Idiot's Guide to Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking, written by my dear friend Juliana Hever, who I've had on the show a few times. She is the plant-based dietitian and a wealth of information. This book is mainly a recipe book, and Juliana has the whole foods focus with her recipes, so everything is incredibly healthy here. You can see I've bookmarked a lot of the pages. Lots of great things in here to show you all the variety. It's just so wonderful. And the beginning of the book breaks down kind of the basics, how to swap out your baked goods, making sure, oh, actually there's a whole section about agave in here. I didn't even know that. Yes. In fact, it sounds like they concluded the same thing. Agave is not all it's hyped up to be. In fact, it may even be harmful if used consistently. And there's a list of whole food sweeteners. This book is a great resource in general, as you can see, and it talks about oil and all sorts of things. But it really is such a wonderful resource. It's got advice on certain tools that you can use in your kitchen to make sure that you're prepped for that. Just a really quick ideas about eating gluten-free and like descriptions on what it means to be gluten-free and dealing with celiac disease, cross-contaminations, and deciphering food labels. There's a great list of ingredients to be wary of so that you're not eating foods accidentally that have gluten in them. So I love, love, love this book, and this will be in the description fields if you're not able to click on it in the Google Plus Showcase. I can't wait to get your feedback on whether that works or not. The other book I would love to recommend is Great Gluten-Free Vegan Eats. This is the second edition. This one's from around the world, but Alison Kramer, the author, wrote another one just called Great Gluten-Free Vegan Eats. So there's two books to check out, and the photos are phenomenal. The recipes are mouth-watering. She is such a doll. I just adore this woman, so I would recommend supporting her. But you'll get very excited about cooking gluten-free meals when you check out this book and her website. So you should check out those two books. Let me put this one up on the showcase too. Oh, it's showing multiple. Okay. There you go. So check these out. The links are in the description fields. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts. If anybody has more websites and books that they'd like to recommend, please let us know in the YouTube comment section. The next question is in the love category, and the love category is all about the relationships we have in our lives with other people and with our companion animals. And in this case, Wendy asked, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats. Obviously, making my animals vegan is problematic. What are your thoughts on their diet, nutrition, treats, etc.? Well, I don't believe that it's problematic for dogs to be vegan. My dog, who is passed out on the couch over there, that's Evie. Evie! Hi, sweetheart. Evie is just about 5 years old, and she is the love of my life. She has been vegan almost the entire time I've had her. I started feeding her a vegan diet, slowly transitioning from her old food to, she was very young when I got her, so I made my own puppy food for her based on a really great supplement called Veg Dog. You can learn all about my journey with Evie on the Eco Vegan Gal Love section. If you click on the Love button on the website, there's a special section for companion animals, and there's also a YouTube channel called Eco Vegan Dog where I've talked about food that I've fed her and various treats that I've fed her and all of that. But Evie has had such a clear bill of health. The one time that she had a health problem wasn't related to her main diet. So vets, I've talked to a number of vets, and they don't really seem to care that she's on a plant-based diet. I feed her something called V-Dog, and it's phenomenal formula made by vegans, and her digestion is great, her energy is great, her coat, I mean, she's just so great, and people often compliment her on how great she looks and feels and acts. So she's been a testament to that. And I recently saw an article that had a list of 100 vegan dogs from around the world. So I absolutely think vegan dogs, based on my firsthand experience and talking to a lot of people and doing research, it's very easy for dogs to be vegan. Now cats, on the other hand, are a little bit of a different story, and I think I've talked about this several times, so I might just link to some videos for you. But in summary, cats are very challenging to be on the plant-based diet, and it's not really ideal for them because they need certain nutrients that come from animal products. However, it is possible, and there are some products out there. There's OmniCat, there's Evolution, there's probably a few more. I would just urge you to really think about how you feel about potentially putting their health at risk with that. I don't see there, if you want to have cats in your life, you just have to decide if it's there, if you're having companion animals because you want them to live like you, or because you just want their love and you can accept that they eat differently. It's kind of like living with somebody else who's not vegan. You love them even though they're not vegan, right? So it's just coming down to how you feel and what your position is. And people can argue with you one way or another. You just have to decide for yourself. And cats are just going to need some extra special attention and focus and really monitoring their health, but it is possible. A lot of vets have different opinions on it. However, I feel like the overwhelming majority of people say it's not healthy for your cat to be vegan. And I feel like if you are vegan and you want to have a companion animal cat in your life, just look for the highest quality food that you can find. Look for foods that are not made from byproducts, but are made from the full animal. You can look for fish-based food that's made from pure fish and not like all the leftovers, which a lot of foods are. Look for the organic foods. Go to really high-quality natural markets. There's a really cool place in LA called the Petstaurant where they make food like just the way that they would for people. It's that same level quality, that food, human grade quality, and people feed that to their companion animals, dogs, cats, maybe some others, and that's a great way to go if that's your choice. And there are some really wonderful canned cat foods out there and dry cat foods, so doing a little bit of research, making sure it's holistically minded, organic minded, high quality, human grade food, and I think that you'll feel okay with feeding your animals that if you make that decision. I think that it's really just thinking it out and doing some research and coming up with whatever feels right for you and your animal. Moving on to the look section. This question comes from Daniela. Daniela said, I am a vegan and very interested in sustainability in general. H&M jeans contain animal products. Their skinny jeans have tags that point out that the material contains parts from animals. I called them and asked about the issue. A customer service rep was not sure, but said it could be that the dye is made of insects, which is shocking to me. I would appreciate if you tell me what can be done about this. Maybe you have a contact person at the company who could take this seriously into consideration. I'm now trying to reach out to people with influence in order to start a conversation about this. Well, the conversation has been started, Daniela, and I really am curious what those of you watching and listening think about this topic. Please chime in, because there's something that I don't know much about. So unfortunately, I don't have a contact at H&M that I can think of. I don't shop there very often. Actually, they do have a new line of organic clothing, which I think is really cool. But in general, I like to get my clothes secondhand or get them from organic small companies because I like to support that, and I just feel better about that from an environmental standpoint. So let's talk about this issue, though. I was actually surprised to hear this, and I don't know, I wasn't able to find an answer to this. The tags on H&M say, on their jeans say that they're made from non-textile parts of animal origin, and it was just very unclear. I found a Facebook post talking about this, and actually an H&M representative actually chimed into this Facebook post. So you never know. They might be willing to jump in. Maybe someone from H&M is watching. If you happen to know someone from H&M, have them watch this video and then comment. But some ways that they might be using animal products, it's possible they could be using dyes made from insects. I don't know if a company would consider that an animal, though. I do, but I don't know if other companies do. So I doubt that that is what the tag is alluding to. And maybe that the jeans have a leather patch on them. That seems the most obvious. Jeans often have a little patch on the back right above the pockets that are made from leather, and that's an important thing to look out for. They could have leather straps on them somewhere. Some clothing might have a little bit of a collar on. This wouldn't be the case for jeans, but if you're buying shirts, make sure that the collar isn't made from fur. If it looks like it's faux fur, it might not be entirely faux, and buttons sometimes have pearl in them, but I bet on the jean side of it, it's leather. So here are some things to look for. First of all, look for jeans that don't have any leather labels on them, or labels at all. I don't know if this would be the case with H&M, but shopping elsewhere, secondhand, for example, it's rare that I even see those labels on it, so it doesn't even come up for me. But so in my opinion, it's very easy to find jeans without that thick label on the back that has their branding, like Levi's does that, for example. You can also look for eco-friendly companies that are using organic materials or just green materials, no pesticides used or anything like cotton and hemp. Some really cool companies to look out for are monkey jeans, and I believe all, if not most, of monkey jeans are considered vegan. They don't have the patches on them. And two other companies I really like are Prairie Underground and Reuse Jeans. I mentioned both of these in my green fashion video, which I'll link to down below. And it was so neat to see all of these eco-friendly companies out there. I went to all these different shops and just found amazing clothing. So check out that video if you want to learn about more brands that are eco-friendly and also have vegan products out there. As far as what you can do to resolve this H&M thing, find the answer, or maybe even change things, number one, I would say reach out to H&M on Facebook, tag them in your posts, write on their pages, try to get it engaged social media-wise. This can also apply to Twitter. If they have good customer service, they will respond to you. I just would do it in a very kind, respectful way so that they want to answer, not a bullying way or not a harsh way, like, I can't believe you're using animal products. Make it more of a conversation, like, can you explain to me what this label means? Or I'm concerned, can we talk about this? Something like that, where it's inviting them into the conversation instead of shaming them for something that they're doing. I think that's the best way to communicate with companies online. You can also start a digital campaign. There are all sorts of great sites out there, like change.org, where is it change.org? I think it is. I'm forgetting them all off the top of my head, but there's a number of sites out there where you can start a petition. So do your research, find out what you need to find out. If H&M isn't responding, you can gather a number of people there, and sometimes that'll help companies change their policies. So if you're unhappy with the way that something is happening, that is a great way to affect change. And anybody else who has some feedback on this, I would love to hear from you in the YouTube comment description. Okay, moving on to the feel section. The feel section is all about how you feel physically, not just about how you're eating, but holistic remedies to things, fitness, what else would I consider, inspiration, like mental feelings and emotions and all of that. Today we're going to focus on the holistic section, and there's two questions around this. So actually there's three. Two of them come from Rachel. So Rachel says, I'm on birth control simply for my period. As I am now vegan, I'm becoming more in tune with my body. I'm really starting to consider what is happening with my hormones to me internally. I also have horrible allergies, and sadly, Zyrtec D is the only thing that gives me any sort of relief. Can you provide any insights on ditching the horrible meds? What is more natural than a period, and yet we treat it like a science experiment? All I've heard about the holistic approach on the allergy side is a neti pot. She also said that essential oils seem like such a magical secret for so many uses, so an essential oils 101 topic would be fantastic. Eleonora asked a similar question. She recently got into discussion with someone who is extremely opposed to any kind of alternative medicine, not because she's had any personal problems with it, but simply because, quote, science proves it's all quackery. I like to think that an alternative does actually work. So have you had any experience with any kind of alternative medicine? Was it positive or negative? And how do you handle a discussion with someone whose mind is so scientifically oriented and so opposed to alternative medicines? Do you know of any reliable studies, websites, articles that I can use to show her so that maybe she'll be more open-minded? I love these two questions. I'm absolutely into quote-unquote alternative medicine, holistic medicine, natural medicine, and I definitely find that it works. First of all, I do consider food to be my health care, as evidenced by these shirts that I make. If you haven't seen these yet, these are available on the website. And really because food has made an enormous impact on how I feel. I've actually been able to trace almost any of my health problems back to food. So I can definitely relate to the allergy question. I've been struggling with allergies for 10, 11 years now, and it has been a journey. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I really have learned that it is highly related to the foods that I eat. When I eat certain foods, I have a sinus reaction to it. Sometimes I get a rash, and I also get digestive issues. And I started to notice the connection between my digestive issues, so bloating, gas, various discomfort, that was directly connected. That would simultaneously I would have the sinus reactions, and I started to think, maybe there's something going on with the foods that I'm eating, and that is part of why I stopped eating gluten and soy. It's also why I noticed a reaction to corn and to almonds, unfortunately, and also legumes caused me some issues. I have a lot of sensitivities that I'm still working out, and I'm finding ways to treat them, and it's just a journey. I have to figure, I'm not quite sure yet if I can't eat those foods at all, or I have to take a break for them, or if I have to do some gut healing. It's honestly, it's a process, but by cutting back or eliminating certain foods in my diet, I've almost entirely reduced my sinus issues. And I was so bad before. I mean, it can be horrible. It still happens, actually, when I eat certain foods that trigger me. I'll be blowing my nose and sneezing all day long. It's miserable, and there's nothing that can be done. I've been in that same boat where I've tried all sorts of different medications, and at one point a few years ago, my doctor just gave me nasal steroids. I forget what was it called, Flonase that I was using? I don't remember, but it was one of those that you spray up in your nose, and it worked, but who knows what was in that, or whether it was probably tested on animals. So I wasn't comfortable taking it, and that's when I discovered the neti pot that you referenced. And I do talk about this in some other videos that I'll link to. The neti pot is called a nasal wash, and you basically put warm water and salt or some sort of a mixture into this little pot. It looks like a little teapot, and you pour it through one nostril, comes out the other, and it washes out your sinuses. I find enormous release with this, and I use it almost every day, and this helped greatly. So pairing that with eliminating foods that I'm sensitive to works wonders. I've tried a number of natural allergy medications, and I don't find them to be too effective, but that's just for me. Everybody is a little bit different, and when it comes to alternative medicine, it's just about experimenting or going to a really knowledgeable doctor, which I highly recommend. Finding a holistic doctor, an Eastern medicine doctor, Chinese medicine. You can go to all sorts. Let's see what else. Ayurvedic medicine can be great for that. Naturopathic doctors. There's so many, and it might take a little bit of trial and error till you find a doctor that works really well for you. And these doctors will often recommend reducing things in your life, cutting back on things in your life, giving you herbal concoctions, recommending certain things to purchase at the store. And I have experienced the wonders of quote-unquote alternative medicine in so many different ways. So to get to Eleonora's question here, so that answers the question about whether I've experienced, and yes, it's been very positive. In terms of having a discussion with somebody who's closed-minded to this, listen, people are going to have their opinions about everything, and this could be applied to any topic. Vegans, this can be applied to any type of lifestyle, right? We live in a world where there are a lot of choices and a lot of different opinions on things, and unfortunately, the reason it's so confusing is because of all these opinions, and even science doesn't lead us to the answer on really anything, because there's always biases involved. A lot of studies are biased. They are funded by companies that want a certain result, and since they have a lot of money and influence, these studies get a lot of attention and they sway the opinion of the consumer. And it's a very sad time that we live in, because a lot of the knowledge that we have is based on marketing. So for me, I'm always very skeptical of over-marketing, and that's why I love alternative medicine, is because it's not really marketed that much, and it's not really talked about in the media very often, because the other bigger companies, the drug pharmaceutical companies, have just so much more power, and that's kind of an aspect. But, you know, I also live and work in a world where I am advertised to. I can show you a perfect example of a couple places that do advertise. I go to the Natural Products Expo, and they're run by a company called New Hope that puts out a magazine, and they have all the advertisements. There's this company, Whole Lifetimes, and I bet if I flip through it, yeah, there's a perfect example. There's a convention coming up, Alternative Therapies Annual Cancer Convention, right? These are the type of ads that I see on a regular basis. So I guess I am marketed too. There are lots of conventions listed in this magazine. So I suppose that can make it confusing as well. But in my experience, a lot of the companies that make alternative medicines, homeopathic, naturopathic, whatever you want to call it, they usually come from a very deep place of wanting to heal people. And I really feel like that is much more appealing than these big pharmaceutical companies that you have no connection with them. They don't disclose their ingredients. It's hard to find any answers to anything, whether they do animal testing or how things are made. And it's hard to get a one-on-one experience with these people. Whereas the natural medicines it's very easy. You can write them an email. You can call them up. You can go to expos and conventions and talk with the founders one-on-one, and that to me is a much more intimate experience. I also find that it's just a matter of experimenting and seeing what works for you. Not just because it's natural and it's sold in stores doesn't mean that it's going to be effective for you. It's really a matter of figuring out what works best. And if you have people in your life that are opposed to it, let them be opposed to it. You know, why do you need to change their minds? If they don't believe in it, why does it matter? This is your body. This is your life. If you feel that alternative medicines are the way to go and they work for you, great. That's all that really matters. Your health is important. And if you want to heal yourself through food and alternative medicine, all the power to you. I did want to share some interesting things that I discovered in this great book by somebody named Larry Cook. I think this was self-published, but you can find it on Amazon. Let's see. I'm going to put it up in the Google Plus showcase if you can see that, and I'll also link to this down below in the description fields. Larry did a really great job of exploring alternative medicines. He has the history of them in here and all different types, and this book is actually a wealth of great info. Larry himself is, I believe he's vegan, he's at least vegetarian. He's such an amazing man when it comes to natural living. And here are some notes from that book. So he talked about disease management and treating the symptom, which is common conventional Western medicine, versus disease prevention and finding the root cause, which is the natural Eastern alternative medicines out there. And the difference being that Western and conventional medicines are basically saying, oh, you've got allergies? Here, let me give you this spray and the allergies will go away. That's managing the symptoms. That's not finding the root cause. Now, for me, that wasn't a great option. The doctor never tried to figure out why I had allergies in the first place. They just wanted to get the allergies to go away. That's very common in Western cultures, whereas Eastern cultures really want to learn why are you getting allergies in the first place? And I had to figure that out on my own and figure out what foods I was sensitive to. And, you know, it was frustrating to have to do that by myself, and I wish that I had seen a naturopathic doctor earlier to learn more about this. So I really think that in conversations, explore that topic with someone that you're talking to. Do they want to just get rid of a symptom, or do they want to prevent it from ever happening again, happening in the first place, and just kill it, right? It's like a weed. If you just rip the weed out from the top of the soil, it's going to grow back, right? It's just a temporary solution. But if you dig down and pull the roots out, figure out why the weed's there in the first place, that's how you really get rid of it forever. So I think of it in the same way, and that to me is a great argument, or a way to explain why alternative medicine works well. Alternative medicine also is based on the innate wisdom of the body, believing that the body will heal itself. And I strongly believe this, that we just have to give our bodies some tools so that it can heal, and that's the foundation of natural medicine. To me, that's so much more empowering than depending on a drug. Why do you want to be dependent on a drug your whole life when you could find some ways to naturally heal safely without side effects? I mean, not only are we talking about the impact of ingredients and animal testing, but most pharmaceutical conventional drugs out there have major side effects. And I definitely want to insert here that I'm not saying that natural medicine is the only solution. I'm just saying that if you don't, you might not need it. There are certainly some drugs out there, depending on your body and your health and what's going on with you. Sometimes we do and benefit from drugs, right? I mean, I've had to use antibiotics every once in a while to kill certain things that I wasn't able to do with natural medicine. I'm not saying that it's one way or the other. I actually believe there's benefits of each, but I emphasize mainly on natural medicine and trying natural medicine first before going to conventional pharmaceutical medicine, because you know, side effects are a huge part of that. Natural medicine tends to be less invasive, and it works in harmony with your body, whereas conventional medicine is very harsh. Again, coming back to those side effects, we might feel even worse, or something else might come up. If you notice from commercials, they'll have like this long list of scary side effects, and the doctor will actually prescribe you multiple things because you have to take one thing and then you have to take another to deal with the side effects from the first thing, right? And it's like suddenly you're loading your body with all sorts of things. I just say try natural medicine first, and if it doesn't work and you're sure that it doesn't work, then go over to conventional Western medicine there. I do also want to end this, that Larry Cook in his book, it rhymes, he talked about the history of it. I found it very interesting that natural medicine was suppressed, I think in America and probably Europe. It was suppressed in the 1920s by a lot of these big companies. And actually throughout our history, even in the 19th century, apparently they were viewing people that practiced natural medicine as witches. So, you know, these witch hunts that we used to have. People were very scared of natural medicine and natural remedies, and that's caused a lot of misconceptions around it. So perhaps people that are opposed to it and think it's quackery are just feeding into that mentality in the media and promotions and traditions and all of that, and they're believing what they're hearing that might not necessarily be the full story there. You know, in the 19th century, in other parts of the 19th century, homeopathy was huge, and it flourished, and in many parts of our cultures. And you can date back Chinese medicine, natural medicine, for thousands and thousands of years. So we have this belief that it doesn't work, and yet there's evidence from so much of our lifespan and how it's been implemented in different cultures. I think that we have to step away from believing what is marketed to us on TV and by the average doctor and really dig into the roots of it, figure out what's going to be, and literally the roots, right? That idea there that I was talking about earlier, and really understand the history of things and not just believe everything at face value because that's what the mainstream believes, right? So it's very fascinating, and I would recommend a book like this. And if anyone else has another natural book that they would like to recommend in terms of natural medicine, please let me know. And lastly, to address the essential oil request from Rachel, I did do a video based on this great company called Well Scent, and in it I talked about essential oils and the impact of them, how they work, and different formulations. So check out that video. I will link to it in the description fields. All right, last question, and then I'm going to jump into the live Q&A. The last question is in the ACT section. And ACT is the section of Eco Vegan Gal that is all about how we act at home, while we're traveling, while at work. This generally has to do with the eco-friendly side of things. So Wendy asked, my boyfriend and I have been vegan for only a short time, since April 2014. Just about every company is somehow touched, maybe by a third party, by other companies that use animal products somehow. When we are trying to focus on where our vote goes, where do we draw the line? For instance, we purchase vegan foods, but from a company that also sells animal products in some way. If we order online, then we are receiving the products from a carrier, FedEx, for example, that also delivers animal products around the world. Purchasing vegan cosmetics from only 100% vegan companies does send the message to companies that are selling vegan products, but may have been bought out by a non-vegan company. To the point, there is no way to avoid some layer of animal products and business connections. So where do we draw the line, and does it matter if we're only purchasing and using vegan products? This is such a great question. And Wendy, I've talked about this a little bit in some other videos in terms of, you know, the fact that we can't be 100% vegan. We don't live in a vegan world. And we are touched, as you mentioned, by so many different vegan or non-vegan aspects in our life. We just talked about medicine, for example. You know, some of us choose to use conventional medicine or need to for whatever reason, and sometimes that medicine will be tested on animals or use animal ingredients. And if that's what we feel like we need to do, or believe, you know, or found that that's what we need to do, sometimes we have to make those sacrifices, right? We drive cars, and there are many elements of cars that are not vegan. And as you mentioned, even when you buy from a vegan company, there's still non-vegan companies involved if they're being delivered to you or sold at certain stores. I think that the answer to this is really just coming up with what your comfort level is when you're buying things. It is definitely possible to get as vegan as possible. So there are great online stores that you can buy from. I love Vegan Essentials, for example. But yes, they probably do use shipping companies that are not vegan. To me, that's not something that I think too much about because it's hard to prevent. You could go to a vegan store nearby, and they're probably doing everything they possibly can do. There's a great store that's not vegan, but it's all vegetarian in San Francisco. It's called Rainbow Grocery, and it's a grocery store entirely vegetarian, and they sell some animal products like cheese there, but man, there's no meat. I mean, that's amazing. That's a great example of a company that's making a lot of progress and a big difference, and I feel really comfortable buying from them, more so than I do from Whole Foods. However, I don't live in San Francisco anymore. I live in Los Angeles, and none of the stores, well, actually, I take that back. In Los Angeles, we have Viva La Vegan, which is an all-vegan grocery store. Fortunately, it's on the other side of town from me, and it's not the right decision for me to go there every time I need to buy something. So I do go to Whole Foods, and I go to other natural markets. And it's just something that I've decided to do. I'm comfortable doing it because from an environmental standpoint, it would be, you know, inefficient to go across town to drive 45 minutes to go to a vegan shop. As ideal as that is, it's not eco-friendly in that sense, and it's also not convenient. So if you're busy, you're trying to save money, it can end up being very wasteful in that sense. But I think this is an important thing to really consider and look for different options. One great thing is to make a lot of your own things, grow your own food, be more self-reliant. So many people buy all the time, and it's creating so much waste and so much unnecessary involvement, and you know, to me, you're contributing more to that issue of not getting from the pure experience that you want. So when you grow your own food, you have complete control over where it's grown, how it's grown, what is grown, and that's an amazing experience. But when it comes to things like clothing, you know, yeah, you could make your own clothing if you'd like, but you know, a lot of people choose not to do that. It's very time consuming. So you kind of have to figure it out. You could potentially live as pure of a life as possible, but it would take a lot of time and patience and dedication, and I think that most people are not willing to do that, so they are willing to make those sacrifices there. And I certainly buy from companies that are not 100% vegan. The positive side of that is it's showing a non-vegan company that vegan is in demand. I mean, Whole Foods has definitely gone through a lot of changes, and you may or may not know that Whole Foods was started by a vegan. And people like to criticize Whole Foods for not being, perfect or vegan, selling animal products, but they have a huge, overwhelming majority of their food is vegan. They've got programs put in place that are vegan-centered, and I think that they're doing a lot and making it easier for people that aren't vegan to make vegan decisions. And the company has certainly noticed that veganism is an upcoming trend, and so they're trying to support that. So I think that it's just a matter of voting with your dollar and showing what matters to you, and the more of us that show what matters in that sense, the better things are going to get. We don't live in a perfect world, and that's why my mantra is progress, not perfection. It's all about doing the best that we can and making the world a better place, not seeking that perfect, pure world. And it is unfortunate, but it's not worth dwelling in. We have to see what we can do as opposed to focusing on what we can't do. And I think that letting go of that is also good because it creates less stress in your life, and stress is not a good thing for us emotionally. And then offsetting it in any way that you can. You're making a huge offset by being vegan, and you're making the world a healthier, happier place in a lot of ways. So you're doing so much on its own that I think focusing on what you are doing versus what you're unable to control is a more positive way to look at it. And lastly, the last point slipped my mind. I think that just doing whatever you can to support the animals and make the world a better place for the animals, whether it's going to an animal sanctuary, donating time, donating money, doing what you can to support businesses, supporting their Kickstarter campaigns if they have them, maybe opening your own vegan business in your online or in your neighborhood is a great way to contribute and bring more awareness to that. And supporting the smaller companies, that is such a phenomenal way to move things forward. And I think focusing on the little ways we can make a difference is ultimately what's going to make a big difference in this world. And I would love to hear anybody else's opinions on this, so please share those in the YouTube description field. All right. Let's jump into questions. I do have a few that came in earlier on the Google Plus page that I would like to answer, and then I will jump into live questions from everyone else. As a reminder, you can ask your questions live at google.com/+EcoVeganGal. Just look for the live Q&A link. Click on there, and you can ask questions in the Q&A window. So Beth asked earlier, can you talk a little about minimalism in regards to eco-friendly living? I'm in the process of paring down my stuff and decluttering my home. It's been really emotional yet liberating to rid myself of literal excess baggage. I'm appalled at the waste I've created, wasting my time and money on too much of everything. Any tips on the best way to get rid of things, multi-use products, and your thoughts about living with less? This is a big topic, Beth, and I've addressed this little by little throughout my channel. Especially when it comes to plastic. Plastic often gets my mind going because so many things are packaged in plastic. Kale chips are unfortunately in plastic. So one option, although I love these, make these at home more often than you buy them. That's a great way to reduce waste. Starting with plastic is a really wonderful way because so many things are packaged in plastic, so the less plastic you buy makes an enormous impact, right? Making things yourself is one of the best ways to reduce. Bringing your own, so you bring your own grocery bags, bring your own produce bags, your bulk bags. They're usually made of a fabric. That reduces enormous waste. Buying less packaged foods is huge. We throw so much in the trash. I will tell you that the combination of buying less packaging, recycling, reusing, and composting food has reduced my trash bag to literally, I have a bag this big. There's like this much trash in it, and I don't even remember the last time I threw it out. I barely create trash. My recycling bin, on the other hand, is constantly overflowing, And that's not a great thing either, because as I talked about in the last video, recycling is not so ideal. So I'm always trying to buy less packaging and make things myself. So buy a lot of whole foods, focus on produce and bulk items. I talk a lot about this in my upcoming ebook, Healthy, Organic, Vegan on a Budget. So I'll definitely have some tips on there and reducing for you. In terms of other aspects of your life, I always say just buy what you need. Stop focusing on what you want, on what the media is promoting, and focus in on what you really need. Next time you pick up something, say, do I need this? And this applies to food as well, but this applies to all sorts of things. Do I need a book, or can I download it digitally or get it from the library? Do I need this new clothing, or could I maybe get it secondhand and swap in my old clothes for new clothes? Clothing swaps are phenomenal for this. Do I need these new shoes, or is it just a desire because they look cool at the moment? Do I need a closet full of shoes? And if you have a closet full of shoes, again, bring those to the clothing swaps and switch out your shoes for some of your friends' shoes. That's the phenomenal way. Sharing things. We forget about sharing, right? That's another tip in my book. You know, when it comes to expensive appliances and things like that, if you use a lawnmower maybe like once a month or something, why not share it with your neighbors or your friends so that there's just one lawnmower amongst a few of you and you can take turn using it. You can think about this in so many different appliances that we don't use very frequently. I think that's starting to get creative with not feeling like we need something. There's so much in our homes that just sits there. But what do I need? I have my bed. I'm very minimalist, but I think I could do better. I have my bed, my couch. I live in a small space here, which also helps me reduce a lot. I've got the kitchen, but the kitchen is always overflowing with stuff that I don't use that frequently. I'm trying to work on that. I always go through my closet and try to pick out clothes and bring them to secondhand shops and trade them in for other clothes or go to clothing swaps. I try to give away things as gifts or just sending them to people. There's a great site called Free Cycle where you can give and receive products for free that people aren't using. There, of course, is Craigslist. Have a garage sale, yard sale, or sell things on Craigslist and get some extra money in exchange for the things that you don't need. And I think that just coming down to need versus want is the best way to reduce things in your life. I could go on and on about this, but feel free to check in with me again for more tips. And the next question comes from Cindy. Cindy says, I have a little brother who's 10 years old. He and I do not live in the same house as he lives with our mother. I'm newly vegan, and neither he or our mother is, but they love animals and understands that I don't eat animals. My mom isn't so open about hearing about my journey to veganism, but my brother seems to be. My question for you is, what do you recommend for videos I could watch with him about the meat industries that are not too graphic but get the point across, and also that will keep him engaged? And how can I go about explaining what really happens to these animals in a way that isn't too graphic without pushing my beliefs on him? I want him to make a decision as to whether or not he will continue to eat meat, and I want him to be educated on this matter now rather than later. Any recommendations would be greatly appreciated. Cindy, I am planning on bringing on author Ruby Roth soon. She is my #1 resource for this because she's written multiple books about educating children about veganism. So those would be my #1 recommendations. One of them, I believe, is called We Don't Eat Animals, and the other one is something about loving animals. But check out Ruby Roth. She is amazing. She's got these beautiful illustrations and these great ways of explaining things to children in ways that they can understand without being too harsh. In terms of videos, I couldn't think of any off the top of my head, so I want to open this up to anyone watching or listening to hear your recommendations, and I know Ruby will have a wealth of information, so if you go to her website, check out her videos, her social media, you will find so many resources from her and from her community. But I would say definitely go to her, and I will address this more once I bring her on as a guest. All right, let's check out other questions. Well, actually, I should finish off with Cindy here. I didn't mean to go over it too fast, but I think that the ultimate thing is that kids are much more open to this than we give them credit. We as adults like to dull things down and make things happy and easy and fun and carefree with kids, but really they often just want the truth, and they can actually handle the truth a lot more than we realize. So finding ways to talk with them without, without worrying too much about how they're going to react. If you just kind of slowly say it, you know, they're going to ask their questions, and if you explain it in a way that isn't scary but is just more factual, they'll probably understand it a lot more and take it easier than you realize. And 10 years old, a child is very developed at that point. I think it might be challenging coming from you as a family member, so that's why someone like Ruby is so wonderful on this. She's got some videos up and other resources, as I've mentioned there, that'll be really helpful. There are some cartoons out there, and I'm forgetting the names of them. There was one that was really good at this. I'll get back to you on this, Cindy, along with Ruby, and please, anyone else, chime in on there. All right, let's look at the live questions from other people. So Caitlin says, I'm in a small studio apartment. My salary is small, and I have only one window with an unmovable screen and no backyard. I want to make my own herb garden, and no little sun lamp grow kits exist, but they all look ugly. What else can I do for sunlight? That's a question I'm not incredibly schooled in, Caitlin, so I'll get back to you. I address this in the book, and the Healthy Organic Vegan on a Budget, because there's whole sections about growing your own in there, and I'm doing some research, so I'll definitely incorporate that question in. I do know that there are many ways that you can grow herbs without much space at all, without a windowsill, and I'm sure that there are some really good lamps out there. What was that one company? It's funny, they were so big for a while. They were like these little pods, and they came with like little veggie pods that you place in them. The light would come down and help grow them. What were those called? I don't remember, but I got one from my dad, and he never used it. But they were so cool. You could grow tomatoes and herbs and all sorts of cool things. So you might not need to go as extreme as that, but there are definitely lamps out there. I just don't know them. So if anyone else wants to chime in, please do. Otherwise, Caitlin, remind me and or check it out in the upcoming book. I will definitely answer that question there. Okay. Well, some rude comments here. Thank you for chiming in with your telling me that they don't think anything I'm saying is enlightening or groundbreaking. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. Let's see, Laura here. Question a little off topic for later. Do you have any specific way you wash your organic produce before eating or juicing? Do you use earth-friendly produce wash, or do you use something else? Do you soak your produce? Yes, Laura, I actually do. I love earth-friendly products produce wash, and I just bought some because it was on sale at my store. I love it. I just spray it on my fruits and veggies, give them a soak, and they are ready to go. So sometimes I will soak my produce. It depends what it is. You know, for me, it's just making sure that they're well cleaned off, and it'll differ from produce to produce. But I definitely recommend getting a produce wash, or perhaps even making your own. I've yet to make my own, but I'm sure it's quite simple. But there are a variety of great products out there. Earth-friendly products is nice because it's often very inexpensive, and it comes from a really great company. So I hope it answers that question there. Wow, who is this person? a lot of mean-spirited things coming from this person that is very soon going to be blocked. But thank you for chiming in. I see that this person has gone on to bully people, and is definitely a perfect example of people that seem to enjoy bullying people online, especially on YouTube, and it is very sad to me. So if you're still watching, I really wish you the best on your journey and figuring out how to get to the root of why you're so angry and feel if it's a good reaction, if you enjoy the reaction, I guess, that you create from other people. But I don't know. It's very sad to me when people feel the desire to say cruel things to others online. I certainly am not trying to bring attention to you, but if you're looking for attention through this way, I just want to encourage you that, you know, you can. It's not ever going to be that satisfying if you're looking for attention through saying cruel things to people online. It's I think that you'll just never get to the bottom of it if you continue it that way. So I hope that you will find a way to feel better about yourself and find another outlet and grow from it. And you know, if you're looking for a little attention today, I'm happy to give it to you in a positive way. And I hope I'm basically using you as an example to just remind everyone that there's really no use in being mean online, because it all comes back to you. It says nothing about who you're saying it to. It says a lot about who you are. And if you want to live a happy life, you have to figure out who you are and why you are that way. And happiness is within all of our reach. So it's just a matter of spending some more time with yourself and really getting to the root of why you're feeling so much pain and putting that onto other people. So that's why at the beginning of this video I said how important it is to be respectful to other people and not to bully. Because, you know, for me, I just block you. Now you're out of my life, but you're still left with yourself. You're still left with going around and being blocked by other people and maybe engaging in arguments online. But it's a never-ending cycle unless you choose to stop being on that cycle. And it doesn't ever create anything positive. It hurts other people's feelings, for one, but it really, really hurts you most of all. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this today. And you know, it's for anybody else watching that is curious about how to deal with these situations. I think approaching it from a place of love is where I've learned to really go from, or just ignore it, because I feel like a lot of these people are looking for attention, or they're looking to be right. There's a lot of ego involved. I was actually, just before I did this recording today, watching a really great talk. The Good Life Project is one of my new favorite channels. I highly recommend it, and it's full of interviews. And I'm forgetting the name of the man that runs it, but he interviews all these incredible people. And one thing that really resonated with me is he was talking to Simon Sinek, I think is his name. He wrote this great book called Start With Why. And Simon was saying about the importance of not always being right. And so many of us say things and do things just for the desire to be right. And we love to argue with people, or we love to prove ourselves, and we love to know the answers to everything. But really that's coming from a place of ego, but also from a place of fear. And he mentioned this deep-rooted biological desire to be right, and for people to know that we're important, know that we have a lot of knowledge, because we don't want to be ostracized. And he related it to, what was it, one wild animal out there in the wild, out in the not the jungle, but in like Africa. What animal was that? Like a gazelle or something. And he was saying that the way they work is the old and I think the young are on the outskirts, and the rest of the population is in the middle. And the reason being that when lions come up, they will always get the weakest ones. And it relates back to this desire as humans, this fear as humans, I should say, that we're going to be ostracized and thus be attacked by lions, right? Now, of course, humans, we don't usually have that problem, but we can relate to that. Whereas we're afraid that if people don't accept us, if we're not right, if we we always have to prove ourselves as being strong, and I think that's why people bully, is they're trying to like show that they're important, show that they matter, get attention, or prove that they matter, that they have a voice, they have something to say, or their opinion is more important. I think it really comes down to this fear of not wanting to be ostracized. It's kind of like saving themselves over someone else. Maybe if I tell Whitney that she's not a very smart person, then I will seem smart, and then Whitney will be fed to the lions instead of me, right? But the reality is that if we, as Whitney, right, in my case here, if we're secure with ourselves and strong with ourselves, really the opposite starts to happen, because nobody wants a bully. No one wants anyone mean in their life. So suddenly this person is going around and commenting. As I just clicked on their profile, they're commenting on all sorts of people, and it's not just me, so that's a kind of relieving thing, but it's also sad, because now what they're doing is they're actually making it worse on themselves. More people are now going to be ostracizing them. So they've actually done the opposite of what they've been trying to achieve. And I think that that's an important thing. So reminding ourselves how to handle ourselves when people are bullying or mean to us, but also when we have the urge. Because in a way, a lot of us bully in small ways without quite realizing it. We might gossip, we might say things online, we might get in fights online, we might use the word should too much, we might go online and try to argue with people who oppose with us or jump into conversations. And that negative energy doesn't do anything positive, right? It just creates more anger and resentment and like tightness, right? For me, I hate that feeling. So for me, especially when it comes to veganism or anyone attacking me online, it's like I just got to breathe through it, realize it's not about me, realize it's not my place to get involved, and just relax. And when I'm in a experience where I want to say something, what's really helped me is stepping back and thinking about why I actually want to say it. A lot of the time it comes down to ego. A lot of the times it's exactly what Simon was saying earlier about trying to prove that we're smart, trying to prove that we know something, when really it doesn't actually matter. Why don't we focus and save our breath and our words for times when what we say does really matter and is really important, and the other person is willing to receive it. It is so much more powerful when we have a communication exchange with somebody or multiple people that want to receive the information, that are open to it. Otherwise, if you're having a communication with someone that's just a wall, you're just banging your head up against it, right? You're hurting yourself. So it's like it does no good, and it's a waste of your energy. We have such limited amount of time and limited amounts of energy in our lives. We should be focused on where we can make an impact in a positive way, not trying to make an impact in a negative way. So thank you to that person for giving me the opportunity to speak about this, and I would love any comments here. I've definitely seen a stream of people chiming in. Debbie, thank you for your words, and I appreciate your support there. Caitlin also jumped in and said a few things. Caitlin suggested that maybe hatred stems from self-guilt, guilt from not being as aware or earth-respectful in this case. That could potentially be the case, Caitlin. I mean, it's hard to tell. I also try not to judge people or assume why they're doing certain things. I think, you know, a lot of times it has a lot to do with attention, but it could certainly be guilt, it could be fear, it could be a desire to make themselves something that they're not quite yet, or maybe it's an exploration. I mean, I think if we look back on our lives, a lot of us can relate to that in ways. I certainly can. I am guilty of gossiping, and I'm guilty of being mean to people or doing things. And it ultimately was all about trying to make myself feel better, or feel better, right? To be better than that other person, or to resolve something within myself. And raising our compassion for not only animals on the earth but humans as well, other humans, not just ourselves but other humans, is such an important thing if we want to make a difference in this world. And I think that these are always great opportunities to take a look at that. And then David chimed in with a few questions. Let's take a look about David here. Oh, wonderful. So David said he just bought The Idiot's Guide to Gluten-Free that was on the showcase. Again, that was this book right here. Cool. I can't wait to hear what you think, David. I just adore this book. It is so wonderful. And let's see. You said that, oh, read the allergy thing. His whole family has had allergies and intolerances, especially to milk, egg, gluten, etc. The common denominator to be stuff that monkeys would never eat. That's very smart. The body and its mechanics haven't changed, but the food industry has. I love that idea. You know, it is interesting to look at the way that we eat from an evolutionary perspective. And, you know, there's so many different ideas about how we should eat, and I try not to go there. I try to say, eat the way that your body feels best. And, if you know, I love that idea of eating the way monkeys would eat, right? They often just harvest mainly plant-based foods, right? And every once in a while insects and stuff. But we have that fortunate benefit of having all the nutrients that we need at the grocery store and the ability to grow our own food and have so much more control. But really thinking about how we can simplify it can definitely help with things like allergies. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for everyone, including the negative person today, for chiming in. I love hearing from you and having this discussion. You know, he brought up the point that all this information can be found online, and you're absolutely right. I have been researching for a long time, and my goal is to give you the shortcuts. So take all the research I've done and the experience I've had and put it into the shortest answer possible. So that's why a lot of people are here, I think, and also letting you know that you're supported. I think one of the biggest reasons that I do these videos is letting you know that I listen to you and that you matter and that people care about you. And I think together as a community, we can help each other in so many ways. That's why I encourage you to comment and be involved and ask questions and just, be here. And seeing your names, learning about you. David has been commenting a lot recently, Caitlin as well. I recognize your avatar, Caitlin, and so it's amazing because it's not just me talking to you, it's us talking together and supporting one another. And you support me in so many ways. All these questions that I get, help me learn so much. So that's really why I do these videos. Sure, if you want to Google it, go for it, but you could spend hours Googling it, and I'm happy to do some of that work for you and provide you with as many resources as possible. I do, speaking of resources, want to remind you to check out ecovegangal.com, which hosts all of the resources that I have there, as well as the social media networks, which are all communities. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, on and on. Those are places where you can not only chat with me and hear from me, but get involved with the whole community. There are always interesting conversations going on there. And also the newsletter. Subscribe for the newsletter when you have a chance. I'll put this up on the showcase because it sounds like it's working according to David. So earlier I mentioned the newsletter here. You can sign up. That'll be in the description field down below. And will allow you to get information from me directly to your inbox. You'll hear more about the upcoming giveaway that I have with Canopy Verde, which I'm excited about. I may mention the Alive and Radiant thing if you're looking for that code. And basically just a way for you to get information without having to seek it out yourself. It's the advantage of the newsletter. I also wanted to mention the upcoming course that I'm doing in September with Kobe from Vegetorials. We're doing a whole course about YouTube, specifically around how to optimize your channel so that's monetizable, how to get a bigger audience, just basically how to improve your YouTube channel or how to start a YouTube channel. So if you've been enjoying my content, this may be an amazing way for you to learn how to start one from scratch or to make yours even better. And I'll be promoting that widely in August, which starts next weekend. Can you believe that? Next Saturday will be August already. Crazy. So you'll be hearing a lot about that, and I hope that you will join me. You can sign up for our newsletter to get all the details as they come out, and you may even get some special discounts for doing that. I think that's it for now. If you like this video, I would love to hear your comments. Give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe to this channel to see more. Upcoming, I have a video all about Canopy Verde, and I also have the great anticipated video about children. I interviewed Waits Rebel, who's Say Words Rebel from Bonsai Aphrodite, her son. He and Sayward and I did a little video together which has all sorts of information gathered from questions from you, and that is coming as soon as possible. I can't wait to get that out for you. So stay tuned, subscribe to this channel if you want to see that and more, and I will see you next week. If you are part of the Google Plus community, you will know when the next video is, but they are every Saturday, usually in the afternoon, Pacific time, and I can't wait to see you then. Thank you for being there, thank you for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. See you later.